What's up, Nova Heads? It's Amber Nova.
This is Chris Lights Out Lytle.
Hi, this is Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Ice Boogie.
It's the real and raw All Against Art Squad.
This is Smiling Sam Alvey.
It's Archimedes.
I'm Jack Cartwheel, the real deal, the human highlight reel.
This is Steve Mowry.
I'm Victor Henry.
Boy, Bulletproof Trooper.
Zoe Stark.
It's ECW Original, The Enforcer, C.W. Anderson.
This is Honest John.
Hyper Street. I'm Luis Moreno. This is Mr. Classic.
I'm Jason Poulet.
The young ghost.
It's old Hattie Price here.
When I say what's my name, tonight.
Richie Slade. My name is Gino Rivera, the Frank Sinatra of the Spanish Mafia.
The incredible one, Anthony Idol.
This is Ken Shamrock.
The Golden Boy, Jordan Clearwater.
Yo, watch and listen.
Championship Online.
This is Alex Mars here. Hi, Richard Modest.
So, please listen to it, otherwise be cursed. Okay, see you later, love that dinners.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're now watching and listening to Championship on the Line podcast. If you're new to this channel, my name is Alex, and my co-host, as always, Richard, is in the house. And today is a very, very special episode here because we got a pro wrestler in the house. She's been killing it right now so far, doing big things with 127 Pro Wrestling, with Galaxy Pro Wrestling, and recently was seen on NWA USA. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the Queen of Galaxy, Rylee Rockett, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome. Again, thank you so much for being on. We're really excited to have you on. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I enjoy doing these.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on. And before we start, we like to do a segment where we like to ask 10 fun questions about yourself. Is that cool to do with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Take it away, Rich.
Awesome. We'll start right away with question number 1. What is your favorite movie of all time?
See, that's such a hard question. I like all different types of genre. But honestly, one of my top 5 movies of all time that I watch more than anything, I actually have 2. I have it's Step Brothers and The Grinch. They're 2 totally different movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're totally different.
Oh yeah, but I watch The Grinch all year round. But I'm really obsessed with Step Brothers.
Yeah, same thing too. I love Step Brothers. Such a great movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you have like a favorite scene from both those movies, or like a favorite moment?
My favorite moment from The Grinch is probably when he's in the sleigh and he's yelling at Max. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna throw up, and then we're gonna die." I've always loved that part. I don't know why, but I guess that's my favorite. And from Step Brothers, the scene when they're in the front yard fighting with like the bicycle.
Oh yeah,
and,
the bikes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love those movies. They're really great. Especially that scene. Especially with the fight scene is pretty good too. And the mom is like with the hose. She tried to like stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Bob, you got it?
Okay, yeah, just logged me out for a second. Okay. Sorry about that. Next question. Favorite TV show of all time?
Favorite TV show?
Yeah.
Friends, probably. I mean, that's kind of cliche, but Friends is my favorite TV show. Yeah.
No, it's like I think so good shows like everyone either likes like Seinfeld or Friends, or something of that similarity.
I'm talking about cartoons because I grew up in the early 2000s, so cartoons were huge in the early 2000s. So like I grew up with the OG Nickelodeon. You know, there was like Jimmy Neutron and Phil Godparents. You know, and then OG Disney. There was Kim Possible and like the Proud Family. So
yeah,
I loved cartoons growing up as well.
Same.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the same era. So like That's So Raven, like Proud Family, like you said, and then there was like SpongeBob was still. I think SpongeBob was probably like the golden years. Like now it's like whatever, but it's probably the best time there, 2000s.
For sure. 100%.
Do you have with Friends? Do you have a favorite character?
Oh, Joey.
Yeah. I was gonna say you have to. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Joey's the best.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Awesome.
He makes that show. He makes that show what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like, because like I barely start watching Friends, so like I've always been like a big Seinfeld fan. So like when I start watching Friends, I'm like, okay, it's funny. Like whole thing with Ross and Rachel, okay, I get it. But then Joey just like makes it so much better, especially when he does.
He does, and like the "How you doing" pickup line.
Yeah.
Every single time he says it, I just crack up laughing. Whether it's not, even if it's not supposed to be funny, it's so iconic. It's amazing. I love that show. I watch it all year. Like I watch it over and over and over and over all year long. And I've watched it at least 10 times this year so far. So.
Did you watch the reunion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
It was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is, like, I mean, I didn't grow up watching it. I mean, I watched like reruns and everything. I was born the same year Emma was born. So it was kind of, like Friends was ending as I was becoming one. And so like I would watch reruns as I was getting older, like with my mom and stuff, because she absolutely loves that show too. But I mean, it's such a good show. Such a good show.
Especially the good thing too, like every show they show reruns, and they show so many of you can watch it everywhere now, which is great.
Yeah. Yep. I just recently finished Game of Thrones. So that was really exciting. I love that show as well.
Sadly, I can say I've never seen it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things on the list. It's must to watch, but yeah, I haven't got a chance.
Well, I mean, if you have HBO Max, it's on HBO Max.
Okay.
So after you watch Friends, watch Game of Thrones.
Okay, we'll do, definitely.
Yes.
Nice. Next one, do you have a favorite band or artist you like to listen to?
Yes, I do. My favorite artist, since his solo album came out, is Harry Styles. I know every girl says it's Harry Styles, but I was never a Harry Styles fan when One Direction was around. I wasn't a Harry Styles fan until Harry Styles went by himself. But my favorite band, that's really hard because I love rock music, like especially 80s and 90s rock music. I feel like that was the era of rock music. But I really do like Red Hot Chili Peppers and Guns N' Roses. I think Guns N' Roses are my favorite. I'm very partial to Slash. So it's like, it's just every single time I hear a Guns N' Roses song, I'm just like singing it from the top of my lungs. Doesn't matter if I'm driving on the way to work or whatnot, my windows are down, my music is blared up. I love Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. Do you have like a go-to song do you like to listen to?
By Guns N' Roses? Or just by Guns N' Roses? Okay. Cliche, Sweet Child of Mine.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just an all-time classic, so it's like, it's hard, not to pick it.
Yeah, and it's so hard to pick just one song that's, your favorite or whatever. So I was like, that was just the first one that was popped off in my head. So I was like, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like I like when I have that debate like about music. People are like, oh, you picked the one that everyone knows. I'm like, well, that's the song that introduced you to like that band. So like, of course, you're gonna like their biggest hit. Like, of course, you're gonna love it.
Absolutely.
Nice. Next question: do you have a favorite meal you like to eat?
I love tacos. Anything Mexican food, I'm obsessed. Nice. I'll eat all of it. All of it. I'm a really picky eater though. I don't eat red meat a lot. I'll eat like chicken and stuff, but sometimes I feel like like chicken chimichangas. Those are so much better than beef or chorizo chimichangas. But I am like a Mexican food connoisseur. I eat it every day, just about. I make it myself. I'm obsessed with Mexican food. It's the best food in the entire world.
I think you get a thumbs up from Alex and myself because we come from a Mexican family. So like, yes. So that's why he has a grin too, because our moms that like, our mom always gives us extra like beans and rice, and it's always just a big home cooked meal. So like we at this point, like there's nothing we don't know, and that's like you said, like it's great about Mexican food where like if you get a burrito, it could be chicken, it could be beef, or it could be a fish taco, or it could be carne asada. It's like any meat you want, it can have it in any kind of meal.
Yeah, and I love it because every time I have a bunch of friends that are Mexican, and whenever I go to their house, their feast when they eat, it's all like a Thanksgiving dinner every single time they eat.
Yeah,
amazing.
Exactly.
It's like I can stuff my face with tacos and not feel guilty about it. Like I love it.
Yeah, because it's like it's the same thing. It's almost like comfort food. Almost, it's like it's like borderline there.
Yeah, for real. It's so good.
That's awesome.
Oh no, we both agree. Yeah.
Because every answer we get from like every guest is like it's the usual like steak and like nice sides, like it's protein, like it's usually steak is the usual answer, but it's just awesome.
Yeah, not a big steak person.
Yeah.
Nice.
We got thumbs
favorite,
up from us.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a favorite video game?
My favorite video game, probably, that's so hard. Once again, there's a big variety that I play. Sometimes I play shooting games. Sometimes I'll play like Assassin's Creed. But I just recently beat Tomb Raider. It wasn't the newest one, but like the second to newest one. I just recently beat Tomb Raider. I've beat at least 4 Assassin's Creed games. I'm obsessed with Ezio. And I recently also beat Uncharted. But I think my favorite game is probably Tomb Raider. I really like Lara Croft a lot. I really do.
Nice. Did you watch the movies like with Angelina Jolie, or are you like a fan of the franchise?
I'm a fan of the franchise. I'm not big into the movie. I also watched the Uncharted movie. I was honestly disappointed because I did play the games. So there was a little bit of like the game aspect in the movie, but there wasn't as much as there should have been. I felt like they should have based everything more on the games instead of taking the liberty to create more. Because there are going to be people out there that are like, oh, wait, this was in the movie. Does that mean it's in the game? And it's totally not. And then it's just going to make people disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think Alex and I agree with that too. Where like even like real life stories, like they'll change it completely. That didn't happen, just to everyone have that feel good moment or the fan have a reaction to it. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But next, do you have a favorite sports team?
Favorite sports team? Yes, I do. For college, it is the Michigan Wolverines because I am originally from Michigan. And for the NFL, it is the Minnesota Vikings.
Nice.
Huge football fan. Football has been in my house since the day I was born. So, I mean, I bleed football. If I could have played football in school, I would have.
Nice.
Yeah.
What position do you think you would have played?
I'm sorry?
Oh no, I was asking what position you would have picked if you would have played football.
Wide receiver or running back.
Nice.
Oh no, for sure. What was your question, Alex?
You have a favorite football player?
Yes, Harrison Smith.
Okay. Nice.
Yes. Yep. But I think my favorite of all time is Barry Sanders from the Lions.
Yeah, legend. Of course.
Yep. But once again, I was born and raised in Michigan.
Yeah.
So I grew up watching even though the Lions are horrible, my heart goes out to them. That's my team. I mean, I give them the benefit of the doubt because they had fantastic players at one point.
Yeah.
but definitely Barry Sanders. And I know a ton of people that are not Lions fans that are like, oh my gosh, Barry Sanders was one of the best football players of all time. And I 100% agree. 100%.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite book?
Favorite book? Yes. One that I'm reading right now is called Billy Summers, and it's by Stephen King.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's better than my Harry Potter franchise.
Are you a Stephen King fan in general, or?
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge horror buff. I'm going to college to become a forensic psychologist. So crime and horror and all that stuff. It sounds so weird, but I love it and I study it. And my goal with that degree is to be able to bring awareness to show people that what we have identified as like the stereotypical, whether serial killer, kid, like rapist, whatever, is not everybody looks the same. Not every profile of that person looks the same. It could be anybody. Somebody that, when I was studying Ted Bundy, somebody pointed out, think of like how many people shook Ted Bundy's hand without knowing he was a serial killer.
Exactly.
If that doesn't, I mean, that's scary. That's something that we need to be more cautious about without like being paranoid about it. So I definitely want to bring awareness to everybody, not just women, but men as well, to everything crime related that's going on.
It's awesome.
No, that's really awesome.
That's good.
You hear about that, like you said, like him or like a Richard Ramirez, and there's so many more, the Zodiac Killer, where you think like they're just normal people and you don't know like the skeletons they're hiding behind, in their closet.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really cool. No, because Alex, we actually watch a lot of those forensic files and stuff that our family loves all that. And even my parents, like, how can you not be fascinated how like the minds of these people, and there's so many different profiles. It's not just like one type of person, like you were saying. It's like it could be anybody, and the stories are just mind blowing.
Yeah, and what fascinates me is people only think that men are capable of doing those crimes when there are plenty of women out there who are just as capable of committing those crimes as the men are. Which, I mean, we know that there are more men that have committed those crimes, but there are also women that have committed those crimes, and some of them have been more brutal than men. And there are still women out there to this day that we might not have discovered that could have done something, and it's been the worst crime we've ever seen, but we wouldn't know, like it's so fascinating. It really, truly, really, truly.
No, it's awesome to hear that you're studying, wish the best of your luck, graduating and pursuing that career. And like Alex, we always talk about this stuff because a lot of stuff you're saying that Alex and I always talk about, but it's just crazy how, like you said, like evil has no color or no shape or no form. It could be anybody. So it's just, it's fascinating and crazy at the same time.
Oh yeah.
Next question. Do you have a hobby outside of wrestling?
I mean, yes and no. Is going to the gym considered a hobby? I don't even know if that's a hobby because that's part of my job. So
we will count it. Yeah, we count that.
Okay, then going to the gym. Yeah, going to the gym, I think. So, I mean, I don't consider watching TV as a hobby, but I do that a lot. So, I mean,
we'll count it. Yeah,
we'll count it. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Gym and watching TV, that's it.
It works.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question. Do you have a ritual you like to do before you enter the ring?
I definitely pray before I go out there because sometimes I don't know the people as well as I should before I go out into the ring. So it's kind of just like praying for safety and that I'll be able to execute the match and get my character over. But I also just listen to Guns N' Roses before I go out there. That's like my pump up. I have like a whole pump up playlist that I listen to before I go out there. So, super simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of, even Alice, I think I don't know, you could probably agree with me, where we ask a lot of people that question. A lot of people are like, oh, I just walk around, I don't listen to music. And I'm like, you would think people listen like to some music to get amped up and ready for the show, but it's been a while. I think you're like maybe one out of the last maybe like 8 or 10 have said like, oh no, I have to listen to music to get amped up. So that's pretty cool to hear. Nice. Last but not least, if you could face anyone in the ring in a wrestling match who isn't a wrestler, it could be a fictional character from a book, a TV show, a celebrity, an athlete, who would it be with?
I think it would probably be Katana from Mortal Kombat.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Nice. How would you see that match going?
I don't know. She's really scary.
Yeah.
And I mean, her and Chun-Li is Street Fighters, but oh no, not Street Fighters. Is it Street Fighter? I don't even remember what Chun-Li is from, but her and Chun-Li both are like women I would never want to mess with. I know that they're fiction, but like no, because you never know, they could pull out a weapon anytime, and Katana could just like hit you with who even knows what. Like, she's got that jab sequence that she does. Sonya Blade is vicious too. I wouldn't want to wrestle her. She's scarier than her husband. So
yeah.
But I think it would be a good match. I would put up a good fight for sure. Even if I lost, I would definitely put up a good fight.
Awesome. Again, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Really, really happy that you're here. And again, thank you so much for being on the pod. Again, I want to take it back, of everything you've been doing, especially with NWA USA and all of the promotions. But I want to take it back to the beginning of like your career. So how did you first get introduced into professional wrestling?
Well, I started watching professional wrestling that I remember of when I was about 4 years old. And when I started watching, it was that's when women were finally taking over, and we weren't sex symbols, and it wasn't like the bra and panties matches or anything like that. It was Lita, it was Michelle McCool, it was Kelly Kelly, it was Mickie James, it was Melina, it was Layla, and the end-ish of Trish Stratus. And I grew up with some very powerful women, and that kind of like encouraged me to want to keep watching it. And then, I started to watch the men, but my dad introduced me to old 80s and 90s tapes and everything, because that's what my grandfather grew up with, or kind of grew up with. That's what my dad grew up with. So he introduced me to like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior and Rocky. And then when he turned into The Rock. And yeah, so I mean, I grew up watching it, and then I kind of blew it off because I was like, I'm a girl. I don't think I could ever do that like they can. I'm gonna let them do that. I'm gonna grow up and be a Disney princess, because every 4-year-old girl wants to be a Disney princess at one point in their life. So I blew it off, and then long story short, I moved to Tennessee about 5 years ago, and I met the son of my trainer actually at a fashion show when I was doing modeling. And he's like, hey, my dad owns this wrestling school. He's Ricky Morton from the Rock and Roll Express. Do you want to come down, check it out, whatever. I was like, yeah, sure. Okay. Totally oblivious to who Ricky Morton was, even though I watched him growing up, but I didn't remember that, And I found out that the Rock and Roll Express was my grandfather's favorite tag team, so that was really cool. Nice. I felt really honored. But yeah, so he introduced me to that. I went and watched for a few months, and I was like, Mom, Dad, this is something I want to pursue. This is something I really want to do. And they're like, well, we'll talk about it. If this is something you want to do, we'll help you until you're 18, and then you got to go out on your own and do that. And I was like, absolutely, 100%. And then I started my wrestling journey in 2019, and I haven't looked back since, and I'm trying to make a career out of it. I want to pursue this wholeheartedly and become the next, you know, the next Kelly or the next Trish Stratus or the next Alita. I want to be able to be that role model, not just for women and little girls growing up, but for everybody. I want to be that person that everybody looks up to. So, it's impacted my life, and it was out of my life for a while, but if it's meant to be, it'll come back to you. So that's what I firmly believe, that wrestling is something that I'm meant to do.
And especially like you're mentioning it, like to making the news to your parents, your mom and dad, especially like your dad, like him being a fan. What was his reaction to it? That you want to be pursued to be a wrestler? Like, what was his reaction about?
He was like, go for it. I mean, he was a little nervous at first because he's like, you're my oldest girl. I don't want anything to happen to you. I don't want these guys hitting on you or anything. And I was like, you know what? It is what it is. And he's like, yeah, you're right. It was my mom that was more worried about it than he was, because he was like, heck yeah, I'm going to live vicariously through my daughter, And that's not really his attitude. He's really proud of me. At least he tells me that. But my mom was more skeptical about it at first than my dad was. So, and it's usually the other way around, because, my dad, he likes to protect. He's very protective, which is good, and I appreciate that so much. So when he was okay with it, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And whenever I tell him, hey, I met such and such, or I worked with such and such at Impact or at NWA or whatever, he's like, oh, what? You got to meet and talk to and work with this person and blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah. That's our job, like, I'm not going to be there and be like, oh my gosh, it's such and such, because it's a job. Everybody's there doing the same job. So, but the first time I actually met Kelly, I cried. I literally bawled my eyes out. I was at a comic convention. It was the beginning of my career. I think I only had 2 matches, and it was in Knoxville. It was called this comic convention called Fanboy. And Kelly was there, and Ricky personally introduced me to her because he knew she was my favorite wrestler at one point. And I just started bawling. I cried like a baby, and I felt so embarrassed because I just cried. And when I told my dad, he's like, this is that's it's crazy. I was like, yeah, but it's my job, and it's something I love to do. So, but they both are very supportive. My mom comes to shows with me because she likes to work my gimmick table.
Oh, nice.
Actually, a lot of the wrestlers in the locker room, they have a name for my mom. She's Mama Rockett. And every time she comes with me to a show, everybody's like, hey, Mama Rockett, how you doing? They totally don't even pay attention to me. And I'm like, wow, Mom, you need to be the wrestler. Gosh, they like you more than they like me. What the heck? But they're very supportive. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's good. Especially like you were saying too, how I think especially when you meet someone that you're a big fan of. I think we've all experienced it, that we get emotional meeting wrestlers. I know I have, and Richard has. But especially even I don't know if you can see from behind, but we have a bunch of figures and stuff like that. With you being the time you're a fan, did you collect the figures? Did you play the video games? Did you watch all it?
Yep, I have 3 female action figures. My very first ever action figure was Melina, and she was in the pink gear, and she could do the splits. That was my very first ever action figure. And then I got Kelly and Mickey James, and I've actually met all 3 of them, which is so crazy to me, because it's I grew up, those were my action figures. I had my own because my brothers, they had we had the big ring, and they had a ton of the other the male wrestlers. So for me to be able to have my own female action figures, that was a huge thing. And I played SmackDown versus Raw 2008, 2009. My dad and brother would never let me play it because, well, I think I played it when I got older. But they wouldn't let me play it because it was too violent, or it was but I was like, you let me watch it, why can't I play the video game?
So different.
But I eventually got to play it, and I was like, this by far is the best wrestling game I have ever played. And I played some of I think that's the only game that I've played except for the 2K games, when the 2K games started coming out. My favorite 2K game is actually 2K20, and I know people don't like that, and it gets a bad rap because of all the glitches, but I love it. I haven't had any issues with it, and sometimes I think the glitches are fun, and that's what makes it unique and different.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, mentioning earlier, having an opportunity to go train with Ricky Morton. What was your first day of wrestling school like for you going in there?
It was rough. I am 5'2", so I'm tiny. 5'2", 120 pounds, going in the ring, and I was the only girl for a while. I was wrestling men that are 6'2", 6'4", like 5'10", like bigger, muscular dudes, tall dudes. Like Ricky isn't tall, but I mean, he's taller than me. So it was really weird because when I started training, like I said, 6-foot guys, whatever. And there's actually there was a female wrestler who eventually started training again because she stopped training for a while because she got injured. So she started training with me again, and that was my first ever match. We made history. We were the first ever women's match at School of Morton, and we had like a plaque at the training school and everything. So I feel really honored to be able to be a part of that. And but the first day was really rough. I walked in and people gave me that look like, what are you doing here? Because I apparently don't look like a wrestler. Whenever I tell people I'm a professional wrestler, they're like, you don't look like it. And I was like, sorry.
Yeah.
Look a certain way. But yeah, it was rough. Like, wrestling is a lot harder than it looks. Once you get the hang of it, you get the hang of it, but it doesn't make it easier, I guess, because you're still putting in a ton of work. And when we're in the ring, we are actually physically hitting each other. So there's going to be bruises, there's going to be welts, there's going to be scarring, there's going to be blood. Like, it's part of wrestling, and people don't understand that. It's not easy at all. Taking a bump in the ring is equivalent to a 30-mile-an-hour car crash. It's not fun. And your first week when you're training, that's what they teach you. They teach you the fundamentals. They teach you the roles. They teach you how to bump. They teach you a little bit of chaining, like top wrist lock, bottom wrist lock, ring wrist lock. They might eventually teach you arm drags and hip tosses, like definitely the basics. And then once you start to get more advanced, you get to learn the bigger moves like swantons, big X factors, springboard, like the high flying stuff. But when I started, I had my first match about 6 months into training, I think. And the girl that I wrestled and we worked on our match. We choreographed it and everything, and we choreographed it to a T. We didn't call anything out in the ring. We choreographed it, and it took about 3 months to be able to just choreograph one match. Which, I mean, it makes sense because that was like the first ever SON women's match. So we wanted to make it good because we didn't know how to call matches out in the ring. We were new, So it was pretty brutal, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
And also doing that, the first match, especially in Morton School, what was his reception of it? Like, what did he thought about it? Like, did he give you any tips or any advice after that match?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The best advice he's ever given me is to not be afraid to get in the ring, because he straight up, the first day I started training, he straight up said everybody's equal in the ring, whether they're male, female, gay, straight, whatever. He said everybody's equal in the ring. And that is a huge thing to me because I am a female, and people to this day give females bad rap about being a professional wrestler, or they're like, you only want to be a professional wrestler to sleep around with guys, or to look this certain way, or have guys look at you this way. And after my first match, Ricky came up and he said, "Thank you." He straight up said, "Thank you." And I felt really honored because that was the first ever women's match. So for him to actually say, "Thank you," that just,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and especially him too, such legend. I mean, for him to say that right here about match is awesome.
Absolutely.
And especially with him, especially everything's been in his career, like especially with the connections, all the wrestlers he's been around with. Was there ever time like he brought wrestlers into the school to train with you guys, or seminars that you had the opportunity to go?
Yeah, he actually brought in like Manny Fernandez. He's brought in Crazy Steve from Impact. He's brought in quite a bit of wrestlers. Apparently he brought in Jeff Hardy. I didn't even know that. I wasn't there, but apparently Jeff Hardy was there at one point, and I was like, why was I not here? I would have loved to meet and work in the ring with Jeff Hardy. But there's been quite a few seminars there. There was, I did an Impact seminar and an Impact tryout there. So it was like Doc Gallows and Crazy Steve was there. Ricky was there. Scott D'Amore was there, who runs Impact. I've had seminars with Manny Fernandez and Jimmy Valiant and Crazy Steve, James Storm. Let's see, who else? I've done other seminars not at SOM, but I think those are the ones that were there. So he's brought in some really good people.
I was gonna say the list of names is really cool. A lot of great names, especially. But take me back. Also, I need to know this, but like, how did you come up with the name Rylee Rockett?
It was inspired by a song by the Christian rock group Skillet. There's a lyric in the song "Feel Invincible" that's shot like a rocket up into the sky. Nothing can stop me tonight. And we were just driving to, I think we were actually driving to a training session. My mom was driving me, and it was one of my first training sessions. And I was like, well, I need to come up with a persona soon. I'm going to be having my first match. So she's like, how about Rockett Rylee? I said, how about Rylee Rockett? And ever since then, it's just stuck. And I changed the spelling and made it different because there aren't very many wrestlers with the last name of Rockett with 2 T's. So I was like, I wanted to make it different. I was going to put an E at the end, but then that would be more Rockett, and Rockett is different than Rocket. So it's like, I didn't want to be known as Radio City Music Hall Rockett. I want to be known as Rylee Rockett, the Queen of the Galaxy, Defender of the Galaxy. She's too out of this world for you. Like that's the type of persona I wanted to portray. And there aren't very many space gimmicks. There's a handful. I have tagged with Billy Starks, who's a space gimmick. I know that there's Chris Statlander, and there's some other male wrestlers that also have space gimmicks, but those are not very common. So I also wanted to be different.
And mentioning Billy Starks, who we've had in the past in the podcast. What was it like also working with Billy? What was the whole experience like for you?
I loved working with Billy, and especially we got to tag against the tag team of Dylan McQueen and Kenzie Page, Petty and Pink. We got to, Billy and I got to create a cosmic invasion against Petty and Pink. And it was just amazing to be able to work with her and to be able to put both of our space gimmicks together. It was just incredible. And her and I had such good chemistry anyways. It was out of this world, 100%.
And especially now we look back, like what's been like your favorite moment or favorite match that you've been a part of in your career?
My favorite moment in wrestling is probably when I first got announced as Rylee Rockett. When I first started, before I actually had my first match, I was just a valet. Corina Caliente was actually my stage name. And I was this salsa dancer for this luchador. And so Jimmy Valiant, actually, I found out after my grandfather passed, but Jimmy Valiant was actually his favorite wrestler of all time. And Jimmy Valiant got to be the one to be the first person ever to introduce me as Rylee Rockett. So I think that was the best moment of my career, even though it was just the beginning of my career. That's been the best moment so far. That's been the moment that made my family cry. And it was just huge for my whole family, not just me, but you know, that was the beginning of the Rocket. And, you know, almost 3.5 years later, here I am, you know, like NWA, I've been on Impact, I've been all over the place. And it's just, that was the highlight of my career so far.
And especially, you mentioned like you said, making your debut in NWA USA. Tell me, how did that come about, you having a match over there, and what was that whole experience like making your debut in NWA?
Well, it was really cool. One of the women messaged me personally and asked me if I was available to be able to go over to Nashville for their tapings. And I said, yes, absolutely. So I actually got to be there for all 3 days of the taping. And I got one more match than I was asked to go do. I actually got to wrestle Angelina Love, who is part of the Beautiful People with Velvet Sky. I got to Love on NWA Dark, I think is what it was, because I know it was a dark match. So it was like part of NWA Power, but it was dark. So I got to do that, and I actually got to wrestle Natalia Markova on my birthday, on my 20th birthday. I got to wrestle at NWA USA, and it was so much fun. Like, so much fun. I felt so honored, and Kenzie Page and I are actually super close. So to be able to be there and experience that with her as well, that made me the happiest person on this entire planet. And she actually got to wrestle somebody that her and I both looked up to, and got to, you know, they were one of the biggest inspirations for us to be able to get into the business. That was the evolution of women's wrestling. So after she had that match, I started crying. She came to the back, and I gave her a big hug, and we both started crying because it's so surreal. And I'm the type of person, I would much rather see everybody else succeed before I succeed. I know my time is coming, but I want everybody else's time to come first before mine. And I want to do everything in my power to be able to make somebody else's dream come true before my dream comes true. So it was so inspiring to be able to see her get in that ring and wrestle that woman. And it was so magical. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it was, because I don't know if that episode has aired yet, but it was a huge, huge, huge part of wrestling in general. And to her, that was so huge. To me, it was huge because Kenzie's one of my best friends. So I'm so thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, because I remember watching the Makova match, and I remember right away they said, like, it's her birthday, it's her 20th birthday, and she's in the ring. I'm like, dang, that's a great birthday to be in there in NWA. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it at all. We were actually, like, for my birthday, because I live in Tennessee, we were going to go to, like, Pigeon Forge and, like, go to the Crime Museum and go get some food at, like, Hard Rock Cafe or something. And then they messaged me, and they were like, hey, are you available for this date? I was like, absolutely, that's my birthday. Of course I'll be there.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. I actually brought a cake with me to NWA, and I shared it with some of the people there too. And they were like, that's, you know, thank you, you know, that kind of thing.
That's so cool. But especially too, like, you know, especially with NWA being like, you know, it's a studio, like it's an audience and everything, and especially there's cameras and everything being on TV and internet. What was that whole experience like for you doing that for the first? I mean, I don't know if it was the first time, but also being from cameras and everything. Was it different? Was it the same? for you?
I started my career in front of a camera because at SOM we already had hard cameras. We already knew how to work the hard camera. We had a roaming camera. We were on Facebook and YouTube, and you can still watch them on Facebook and YouTube every Sunday at 5 o'clock. And and then I was also an extra on Impact. I was part of Johnny Swinger's posse. I was a Swingerella. I got to be able to, they flew me out to Vegas, and I got to be able to be in Wrestle House 2, which was really fun. And so I did a lot of that too. I did theater throughout school. I started doing theater when I was 6 years old. So that's another reason why I love wrestling, because it's acting, but it's also reacting, and it's fitness. So I get to work out and act at the same time, and it's amazing. But but when I was there, like, they told me where the hard cam was, and I know where to sell, and I know where I'm supposed to be for them to be able to see my face. So it wasn't really new. It was just different. I've never wrestled for a bigger production company because, like I said, with Impact, I never got to wrestle at their shows, but I knew where the camera was, and I knew how to work the camera even as an extra. But with NWA, they use a big camera production as well. So it was strange, but I was already used to it. It was just a different aspect of getting used to it or not.
And I gotta ask too, because like I'm really big fan of Impact Wrestling, and I watch Johnny Swinger. I think he's awesome. I love his segments. What was it like having an opportunity to work with Johnny Swinger?
It was awesome. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know who he was. I had no idea who Johnny Swinger was. I knew who Tommy Dreamer was because I did watch some of his hardcore, ECW matches. I didn't know Johnny Swinger. I didn't know he was in ECW. I had no idea. When they told me, hey, we want you to be a Swingerella, I was like, what? What? First, they originally called us Swinger Girls, and then they're like, that sounds too sexual and like a stripper, so we'll just call you Swingerellas. I was like, I'm cool with whatever. Yeah. I mean, just the experience to be able to be there was incredible. It was long days, long filming days. Sometimes we were there for 10 hours, sometimes we were there for 12 hours. And it was long days, but it was so worth it. And to be able to just speak with Johnny Swinger and pick his ear about the business, and be able to sit in the back and pick other people's ears about the business, that was a huge thing. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm very thankful for that opportunity. And hopefully one day soon, I'll be able to actually wrestle on Impact.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I hope so too. I hope you make your debut in Impact. Scott D'Amore, if you're listening, come on, man. Let's make this happen. we need an Impact Wrestling, of course. But also, especially, I want to get your thoughts how, like you mentioned earlier, how, back, especially back in the early mid 2000s, women's wrestling, how it was being used, especially with, like you said, like there's bra and panties match, especially how it was back then. But now, women's wrestling, in my opinion, it's like it's high as ever been, especially with promotions doing all women pay-per-views, especially how, especially with NWA, WWE, AEW. Especially now, what are your thoughts on women's wrestling, how it is today?
I feel honored to be able to be a female professional wrestler. Just straight up. I really do. And how far women's wrestling has become. It sucks that it's taken us so long to be able to prove our worth, because we've been there the whole time. It just took one person to be able to look at women's wrestling and be like, wow, they can go. They can go just as good as the guys, if not better than the guys.
Yeah.
My favorite female wrestler since she debuted and I watched her is Sasha Banks.
Yeah.
Sasha Banks is the epitome of a female wrestler. Bianca Belair. Like, I watched WrestleMania. I just watched WrestleMania, and I feel like the women's matches were the best matches of both nights. Like, I feel so honored to be able to be in this business with all of these strong, powerful women, and not just in the pros, but in the indies as well. Like Jordan Grace, Camille on NWA, Kenzie Page, and just all of those girls that make wrestling what it is. And I feel so honored to be a part of this sisterhood, even though sometimes, you know, we do get a little catty in the back, but I mean, that's natural for women. If I'm being honest, sometimes the guys get worse than the girls. But I mean, that's part of the business. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We're all out here doing the same thing. We all want the same thing. But at the same time, we're there for each other. And being in the locker room with women is so much different. And every women's locker room that I've ever been in, I've never experienced anything bad. I really haven't. I've been in the best locker rooms with the best women, and I'm going to plug Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green is literally the sweetest woman on the entire planet. I look up to that woman with every fiber in my body. I admire that woman. She is the sweetest, kindest, most badass woman you will ever meet. In the ring, outside of the ring, it doesn't matter. Like, just women wrestling in general is such a huge inspiration. And there are a lot of younger women, like little girls that go to shows and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know women were going to be there. I didn't know women wrestled. And now these little girls are looking up to us and looking up to, and you know, now they're going back and watching the originals like Molly Holly and Medusa and, you know, all of those women that paved the way. And these little girls, I've had a few of them come up to me and tell me they want to be a female professional wrestler when they grow up. They want to be just like us when we grow up, or when they grow up. And that, to me, it's such an honor. And I'm so thankful to be able to be in this business with all these amazing women who all are working their butts off to entertain and to do what they love and not just go out there and look like eye candy. We're there to actually wrestle. We're not just a piece of bum in the ring. We're not just this beautiful blonde girl. No, we are professional wrestlers. And we expect to be respected as professional wrestlers, not as just women. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah.
No, exactly.
Definitely. And I remember too, because I remember like watching Impact Wrestling, and I remember watching, you know, like Tessa Blanchard, you know, her, you know, even her winning the title, winning the heavyweight championship, and having these freaking great matches with all these men. And some of them, she was doing better than them, some of them, you know, and it just shows that now we're in a position, now we're in a level now that women wrestlers are taking over, and some of them are way better than the men wrestlers out there, you know?
Yeah. And intergender wrestling. I know there are a lot of people that don't agree with intergender wrestling, which realistically, the men would always overpower the women. But I feel intergender wrestling shows a woman's strength, shows that they can keep up with those men.
Yeah.
And they can put on a show just as well, if not better than those men.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of intergender matches. So I feel like that makes me a stronger wrestler. I'm not trying to like be rude to any other women wrestlers that are watching or anything, but I feel like there's just a difference when women are wrestling men than when women are wrestling women. It makes you feel more powerful because you get to step in the ring with a big, burly, mean man, and you get to kick his butt.
Yeah.
And you get to kick his butt in the ring. Like,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's so cool. So, I mean, women are definitely taking over the whole business.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely agree. And it's true, because I was going to ask you that too, which, you know, especially with intergender wrestling, I feel like a lot of people don't like it, people disagree with it, but, you know, especially like as mentioned earlier, watching Tessa, watching her matches and everything, you know, promotions doing, I think it's awesome, you know, and it shows that they could be in the ring with them, and some of them much better, which, you know, I agree, which is awesome. And, you know, especially, you know, now in your career, like, who would you like to work with in the future? Like, is there a list of names that you like to go in the ring against?
There is a list. I've actually got to check off a few of those boxes. Billy Starks and Alice Crowley were on those list, or we're on that list. Chelsea Green is on my list. Kenzie Page was, but I wrestle her all the time, and I love it. So she's checked off the list, but definitely Chelsea Green's on there. Camille is on there. Jordan Grace. I never got to wrestle Jordan. I definitely want to wrestle Tessa. I want to wrestle Thunder Rosa. There's a bunch of very beautiful professional wrestlers that I would love to wrestle. And my dream is actually to be able to put on a match with Sasha Banks. So
that would be awesome. Yeah, hopefully in the future that we can make that could happen, and fingers crossed. Hopefully, but especially speaking wrestlers, but also what are your goals with companies? Like, is there a specific company you would like to sign with in the future? Like, what are your goals due to signing?
I'll sign with whoever wants me. I love this business so much. If NWA offers me a contract, if Impact offers me a contract, if Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, MLW, whoever, I'll go wherever. I mean, when I started, WWE was the ultimate goal because that's what I grew up with. But there's talent in all these different wrestling companies, and I'd be able to I would love to be able to work for any one of them.
And especially now especially like if someone's watching this and wants to become a professional wrestler, what advice would you give to someone that wants to be a wrestler?
Do it. It's not as easy as we make it look, but if it's your passion and if it's something you want to do, even if it's just something you want to try, whether it's for a month or a few months, just try it. It's not going to hurt to try it. I mean, your body will hurt. It will physically hurt, and you will need to take Epsom salt baths, and Icy Hot and Biofreeze will be your new best friend. But if that's something that you feel you want to pursue, then do it. Don't let anybody tell you can't. And I know that's cliche, and everybody tells people don't let people tell you can't, but genuinely, don't tell people you can't. I'm 5'2". I went from competing in pageants to being a professional wrestler, and I was told you can't. You're too small. You're too skinny. You're too this. You're too that. You're not blonde. Nobody's gonna want you. You're not blonde. But I mean, I have blonde now, but they're like, you're not blonde, you're not this, you're not that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this because I want to do it. Not because you're telling me I can't, but that's giving me more motivation to show you that I can. So if you want to be a professional wrestler, you go in that ring and you show them you want to be a professional wrestler.
Boom. Awesome. That was great advice. That's awesome. Well said. And again, Rylee, thank you so much again for being on this podcast. We really had a fun time, and I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, it's a pleasure. And before we sign off, is there anything you'd like to plug in, advanced social media where they can find you? Anything you'd like to plug in?
Yes. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Rockett Rylee. I post updates on there for matches. So if you're ever in the area, or if I'm ever in the area that you live, just come watch some out of this world wrestling that's beyond the galaxy. Just come on down, come watch. Maybe you've never seen a woman wrestler. Maybe you've never seen a woman wrestler wrestle in person. Come on down. It's not going to hurt. I mean, but thank you guys for having me, and thank you for allowing me to talk about my journey and be able to tell everybody about professional wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. It's a pleasure. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we will put down the description down below where you can follow her all social medias. And please do yourself a favor, follow her journey, because I know guaranteed she will sign to a big promotion. It's a guarantee. And follow her. We'll put down the description down below. And again, Rylee, thank you so much. It was so much fun. And also thank you to everyone who's been watching. We'll see you guys next time here at Championship Online Podcast. See you guys next time.
the love.